Okay, so to refine a model, what you're going to do under this training part of the protocol, if you scroll down a bit, there will be a part here that says, oh, if the videos are not accurate, refine the model. So what you're going to do this is similar to what you did to analyze the video. Is you're just going to add the new video to the videos folder, select manage project, and then add the new videos here. So we have already gone through, created a little clip of a video that we wanted to add to label frames of. We added that video to the project, and then we analyzed the video here. So now we have the output of those frames here in our videos folder. In Windows, System 32. Deep Lab Cut Cone Environments. Okay, so in our videos folder, we have all the, we're using this clip here, and we have all the outputs of this. So we already analyzed this video. We're then going to click on the tab Extract Outlier Frames here. And this already has our video selected that we just analyzed. We can use the jump algorithm that essentially looks for different techniques for extracting frames. So jump will extract frames with, I think, low likelihood ratios, or where like the point has moved a significant different distance. And then there's also uncertain, or you can manually select frames, or fitting is where like the model is not a good fit. So jump has worked well for us in the past. We are then going to extract frames. Click on this button. And it should give us a little, okay, so now you can see it's like going through and extracting some frames. And then it gives us a little cue down here in this toolbar. Once you've extracted frames for all videos, use the refine labels to manually correct the labels. So here you can go into the labeling GUI through clicking on this button, or you can go to the label frames tab. The labeling GUI from this can sometimes be funny and like slightly different. So it's nice to just go into the label frames. And then you are going to select the folder of the clip of labeled data. So this was the 3-part Open Arena clip, and we're going to select that folder. And this is the GUI for labeling. It's going to walk you through how to use it. Okay, so it's like a step-by-step guide. You can read this on your own about all the different parts of the labeling GUI. That will pop up every time, so you can always select abort if you don't need to review that. Okay, so this is labeling the animal with all the same points. So with multi-animal projects, as you can see here, if there were 2 animals, it would label animal 1 with all blue points and animal 2 with all purple points. But it doesn't label them across a color map for each animal, which makes it challenging to distinguish the points of each animal. So if this is happening to you, and this I think is kind of like what it will prefer to do, you just press the key F, nothing else, and then it will toggle it to making each body part a different color in the color map. And then you can just kind of select whichever color map pleases your eyes best so that you can see everything. Usually like rainbow is good. That looks pretty good. So that everything looks different enough. You can also choose to display text where if you are in a closer up view with fewer points, this could be helpful, but the text is very large. So what you're going to do from here is start editing the labels that Deep Lab Cut has put on. So first, just if you hover over a point, you can see in this bottom toolbar, it is telling you the label for this is pup, or even right next to the mouse, it eventually can pop up. The label for this is pup, and the likelihood of it is 0.99. So that's not good because that is definitely not the pup. And so if we go to key point selection, anything that isn't the mouse body parts that we saw in that, or that are in the config list, so all the unique body parts of the pup in the miniscope will be under single, and then you can select pup. So you can zoom in and out of the image, and you'll have to figure out how to do that on the Windows. I'm doing it on a Mac on a Windows, so I cannot tell you that right now. And then you're going to go to the select arrow, and then you can go to the X where to delete the key points. Thank you. And essentially what you're going to go through is just go through each mouse point and make sure that it's in the right area. If you cannot see the point, so like you can somewhat see the nose, I would say the nose is right there. You'd move the nose to where that should be. And this labeling mode is going to go sequentially through each point. So once you've, but it is a little bit different when you are relabeling. So you can individually select ones. And if you're on this arrow, then you can easily switch between each point to edit it. And then once you're done editing this frame, you're going to go to the next frame. So one major thing that we had a problem with for relabeling frames is once you have relabeled the frames, you're going to go to File and then Save Selected Layers. Make sure that you're on the Machine Labels layer. So you're going to go File, Save Selected Layers. And then once you do that, this creates a new layer that is not visible to you right now. That is like, whatever, it might say like Roshni labeled layer. So that's fine. This video only has 19 frames, so I could probably do this in one sitting and relabel all the frames and save it. And it's fine if you save it kind of throughout labeling. Make sure that when you do go to Save Selected Layers, you see it for a very quick second in the bottom toolbar, that data successfully saved. So make sure that you are seeing that, because sometimes Notepari will freeze and you won't realize, and it won't save the data. And so if you have a lot of frames to go through, this becomes a problem. Also, if you have labeled, let's say this had like 300 frames to relabel, and in one sitting you relabeled like 100, and then you kept this all open and came back the next day and tried to relabel them, and it like, I don't know, was acting funky, you closed out of it and then went back in to label frames. Oops. And then you went back into label frames, and we'll abort this time. And then you went into this machine labels. So you can see on this machine labels layer, I still have this pup point that I just deleted, because these are what the Deep Lab Cut originally put down as the machine labels. And essentially it compares its labels that it defined to this new layer Okay, so if I were to relabel this frame and then save it, it will save and save this layer. It will save over this collected data Roshni. So if I had done like 100 frames on this layer, or if I did 100 frames yesterday and saved that 100 frames and then came back into this and then started relabeling machine labels from 100 frames in and then saved this layer machine labels, it would, now my first 100 frames that I did yesterday on the collected data Roshni would be incorrect, and my second 100 frames would be correct. So just make sure if you're coming back to this that you're actually changing the frames, the labels in the collected data Roshni file, not the machine labels file. And you can toggle the visibility of these on and off by right clicking and toggling the visibility, because otherwise you might be seeing labels from both the layers. So that is a major point to be aware of, is if you're doing this all in one session, it's fine. You're probably just going to see this machine labels layer and you'll relabel all the points and then save the layer. And you can save the layer throughout, you know, maybe at frame 2 you save it, maybe at frame 10 you save it, so your work is consistently being saved. But if you ever come out of this and then come back into Napari, you're going to go to the collected data Roshni layer and relabel the frames on that layer only, and then just save that layer. Do not touch the machine labels layer again. Okay, so once you're ready to retrain the model and you finish labeling everything, you're going to make sure, so this has already gone through being saved and then opening it again in Napari, so you can see that it has this machine labels layer and then this collected data Roshni layer. So the most recent labels were all adjusted on this collected data Roshni layer, and then you would click File, Save Selected Layers, and down at the bottom you can see this last save time at 11:23:03. So now we can close out of this Napari viewer and we can select check labels, and that will just do a rough check to make sure things aren't like in crazy different points. Oh, and it's going to check every single label for every video that's been trained. It's been trained on, so it's going to go through a lot of these. We're going to go back to the Extract Outlier Frame tab and select Merge Data Sets. So this is going to add the new labels that we have to the old labels. And it, again, like, you need to make sure that you've labeled everything before merging the data sets. Otherwise, it's going to retrain on data that is incorrect. Oh, there's a folder that's not right. So in this bottom left-hand corner, it said, please label or remove the uncorrected folder. This was just copied over from another computer, this model. So it had a bunch of data that was previously labeled, or a bunch of videos that were analyzed that I think it doesn't like having in this labeled data folder. You'll know folders that have labeled data in them because they'll have the folder name, and then that folder name will be copied with labeled placed after it. If you get this, it could be upset that one, we had all of those folders in here that didn't have a corresponding labeled data folder, but it will not use those if you're refining the model. So you can go through and delete them all, but I don't think you need to. But the error is not impacting its ability to do further things, like create this training data set. So I'm just going to create the training data set. It's happy. And now what we need to do is we're going to have to go, and this is in the protocol, you define pose CFG and edit the init weights on pose CFG. So pose CFG is going to be in your model, so you can follow the current directory that's in step 1 of opening Deep Lab Cut, and then you're going to go into DLC models, and then your most recent iteration, and then train. So we're here in that directory, and we're going to go to DLC models. We're going to go to our most recent iteration, iteration 3, and then click on this, and then train. And this has something called pose CFG. And so we're going to go into pose CFG, which is just a notepad, and we are going to change the init weights. So the init weights is automatically created when you create a training data set by Deep Lab Cut, and so we need to change that to refer to our previous model so that it's building on a new model and not creating a new model with this training data set. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the most recent snapshot. That could be in our folder or the other iteration folder. So if we go here, there are a couple snapshots in here. We can just copy this. We're actually going to copy this as a path. So you can right click and select copy as path. And we're going to copy the path here. It's important to note that there's one space after the colon before the path. So just to make sure you're copying and keeping the exact same formatting, otherwise you'll get an error. So there's one space there, and then I deleted the quotation mark, and then I'm gonna delete the dot meta and the old path. Okay, and then again, make sure that it's the exact same format as it was previously. So this is all in one kind of line, and then intermediate supervision, which is another variable, is on the next line. And so I'm just going to save that. Oops. I'm going to save that. And then I open it again. I should see this init weights as the snapshot. So now it's going to be building on the model that was created in this snapshot rather than building a brand new model. And then we're going to train the network. And so when retraining, you can retrain at a lower number of iterations. So we're just going to retrain at 100,000. When you're doing initial training, you really want to do this 250,000. So we're going to go to the tab Train Network. And all of these are really staying the same. And we're just double checking that the max iterations is going to be at 100,000. So it's going to save 2 snapshots here because every 50,000 iterations, it's going to save a snapshot. So now we'll get a new snapshot that's 150,000 and then another new one that's 200,000. And even here, there's like a reminder to edit the posecfg.yaml. So if you need to make any edits, you can do that. And then if you select Train Network, you'll start seeing things happening in the command window. And this is where you might see any errors if those pop up. Oh, so it seems like there was an error. There's an error, you gotta follow this path because this is the script that created the error. So we can open this with Microsoft Visual Studio. Just feels like this was the problem. Yeah, so once you select Train Network, it will print out the entire POSE-CFG file. So if you don't see this, there was something wrong with how you entered things into the POSE-CFG file. Likely you just put a space somewhere wrong. Usually it's a space that you forget between the init weights and the C. And then it will again print out the GPU that it's using. And you can see that it already went through iteration 101,000. And that's all we're really looking for now, is that it's going through all the iterations. And again, we should expect this to finish at 200,000.